Welcome to Office Hours, a show where we answer your technical media production questions every single week. Courtney, what's our first question?
First one comes in from TJ Asher in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It says bowl video camera tripod heads compared to flat base video cinema heads. What are the advantages and disadvantages of one style compared to the other? Looking for both theoretical and real world examples.
Courtney, start us off.
Well, there are a couple examples. Generally, you'll find bowl-based for smaller, lighter cameras. You don't find them for too heavy a cameras. They're a lot easier to level your camera because you just loosen underneath and rock the camera until the bubble levels bubble and you lock it off. So it's great if you're on uneven ground. You don't have to adjust the legs of each tripod leg to level out or adjust some kind of screw level ahead adjustment if you're on a Fisher dolly, etc. So the flat base is better for heavier cameras. For if you're going to put a gear head on top of the camera, usually they're almost always flat based that are designed for the cameras that weigh up and above about 30 or 40 pounds. Or if you're going to put a teleprompter with a lot of weight on it, or a big, if you got a lot of battery mounts and transmitters and everything and huge lens, a big box lens or a large zoom on there, you probably want to stay away from the ball based base because once you loosen that ball, camera can easily lurch forward and fall over if your tripod legs are not spread enough. So, and also if you have a teleprompter on there that is not carefully balanced, you can end up with a lot of trouble trying to level that on the ball head. But they are much easier to work with on set than the flat base heads.
Chris Sabato.
Yeah, as Courtney said, it's really about ease of leveling, right? And so, my experiences with sports and where we run into this is particularly like on a soccer field, right? And if you come in and if your camera's not level, you get this like effect where you're like when you're going back and forth, it's really pronounced when you're kind of zoomed in, and having that bowl level really lets you dial that in real quickly, and you don't have to adjust tripod legs. It's just unscrew it, level it, tighten it, done. So real quick.
And Ronnie?
Yeah, it depends. If you're going on a hike to a mountaintop, I tend to not bring not that I'm going to mountaintops or trekking anyway. I would not bring a more heavy tripod like the bowls because they tend to be a little bit more rugged, bigger, heavier, and made for a different type of use than the more lighter carbon tripods or even monopods that you bring to other stuff. So it depends on the usage. But of course, having these ones inside or doing more heavy camera work, I tend to bring the bowls. Just remember you have different size bowls. So you have, I think you can actually get them down to 50 millimeters and 75 and 100 millimeters and 150, etc. And the really big ones that are made for really, really heavy equipment is even bigger. And the trick to use these is just to, as already said, quickly adjust and get on with other tasks when you are on a production. Just aim it towards the main angle, find something that is horizontal, level the camera or pan the camera to the correct position where you need it to be 100%, adjust the level sideways, then turn the camera 90 degrees right or left, and do the same with something other that are horizontal to a certain degree. So ceiling linings or even floor linings, if you can see them behind the tables, etc. That is good. And then remember to turn it back and then do a final small adjustment. I tend to just hold on the top of the rig and then have my right hand on the lower handle and then carefully just tilt it sideways or else I would be trying not to tilt it forward and backwards. So just make sure that you have a solid grip when you loosen the grip and then everything should be working fine.
And Courtney?
And I found something if you want to adapt. This is like kind of a lighter weight thing from K&F. concept tripod. It has a flat base, but it has a little ball leveler built in here so you can loosen it and re-level it with a integrated spirit level here in the corner so that you can go between a flat base and a ball level fairly compact. There are adapters that are usually about, 4 or 5 inches high to adapt from flat base to ball level, but this one seems to be fairly low profile, like an inch and a half for a fairly small camera. I'm not sure whether it's a 3/8 inch or a 1/4 inch. I have to look at the specs. Height is 1.4 inches. So camera's up to 22 pounds. So it's a 1/4 inch screw on that one that I just showed.
Go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, and if you're really sensitive about the level, the cheaper brands of these type of bowl tripods, the spirit level tend to be off most of the times. So if you don't have any kind of visual thing that you can aim against, like a wall or a ceiling line or whatever, just bring a builder's or carpenter's level. You get these small ones that are like 1 foot or 30 centimeters long, and have that in your tool bag, and you will always have a camera that are really leveled, if that is really important, and it should be. I've seen so many professional shoots that are really missing the last percentage of leveling. And for me, being really anal about level, it's so annoying. You just fix it. Even on drones that should be leveled all the time, people forget that drones also can be calibrated, and that is really annoying. I stop watching those types of clips.
Let's go to the next question.
I found, oh, sorry, I was just going to add on to his
Okay, no, go ahead.
question. There's an app called Exclinometer, I think it's on there. Maybe they changed the name of it. That's on most phone apps. There's a leveling app because they have really great gyros in a phone that are, tied to the gravity. And so they'll give you a bubble level and they'll give you an inclinometer. So it shows you the angle that you're at when you put the flat side of the phone on something. So it'll tell you exactly how far off you are. And if you put it flat like this, it shows you a bubble level, which is great to have. So it's great to have that app on your phone. You pull it out in the emergency leveling situation.
Awesome.
All right. Next question comes from some guy named Alexander Knight in Port Coquitlam, British Columbia. What has been your latest gear acquisition that you really value, and what was the last one that was a disappointment, and how are you utilizing it?
Go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, so I'm so lucky. I have a wife and kids that love me. At least I think they do. They gifted me this one. This is the Osmo Pocket version 4, which is really cool. I'm going to be using that a lot. When we're on jobs, doing events, I always tend to have my phone locked up in something else. It's controlling a timer, or it's playing music or intercom or whatever. And I always use my phone to kind of make behind the scenes photos and films. And I was thinking about just bringing, and I've been using an Osmo Mobile for many years for that particular reason. So I started thinking, should I bring another phone to do everything and still continue filming on my phone? But then this Osmo Pocket 4 came out, and it's so small, it's so powerful, and the pictures it creates, it's amazing. And I always love the fact it has gyro, so it makes everything stable in the gimbal. And the picture is cool, and it has built-in memory, so I don't have to think about forgetting SD cards anymore. Just remember to empty it. And yeah, it's connected to my small mic 3s, which I can put everywhere, and even do time lapses, etc. It comes with the creator pack. It comes with a small tripod, so you can. There's a screw under the add-on thing, so long battery time. And the thing that I regret most of buying is something actually sitting behind me here. That is this one. This is a Behringer Flow 8. I've used it for a couple of weeks. then I tend to think that this small power, this is a micro USB, it's so flimsy, and then it started to fail on me, probably because I'm too too rough with it. But using a small micro USB cable to power such a powerful unit, it seems like a bad design choice. So I stopped using it just because I was scared to be actually losing power in the middle of something. So other than that, the mixer is really great. It sounds good, and it has a lot of features that a lot of other mixers should be adding to their platform, and some of them are. So it's kind of cool, but it sounds
Like what
just sitting there.
features are you saying that other consoles in that size don't have?
Yeah, there are none of these size in this price range that have all these features. That makes this mixer kind of powerful because it can do so many different things. It has enough channels, it has high impedance channels, it has Bluetooth, it has kind of a weird way of setting the monitor outputs, but it has monitor outputs, it has foot switch control, it has so many things, and it also has this micro USB power. That is so stupid.
Cool. Let's go to Chris.
So the thing that I got most recently, and it's just kind of simple, but it's a laptop. It's a monitor arm that holds a laptop, and so like it's I can it's a monitor arm, but it's got this laptop in there, and it lets me get the laptop like off the desk. It's not something this laptop, and this is kind of like in conjunction. Um, it's an older laptop that I was able to install Chromium on, and so all it does is it's for music, right? I can just play some music on it's right there, but I don't have to mess with my main computer. It's right there. It's not on my desk. It's off to the side. I was like, I think it was $25 on Amazon, and when you order some of these cheap arms on Amazon, it's like you never know what you're gonna get, and it's not great, but it's well worth $25. So yeah, that's the latest thing I got.
Cool. Over to Nigel.
Yeah, so I've been on a slightly different technical tear for a while. I've been trying to simplify everything. So I am going through my setup. I'm working out what is too complicated for my needs. And so I really replaced my whole audio system, which was lovely with an X32 and Dante and all of that, and went down to a Rodecaster Pro 2. And that doesn't have the flexibility I had, but it's really what I need. And so that's the thing that I've most enjoyed using. But bit by bit, I've been trying to go through my studio and not buy things that make it more complicated, but buy things that make it more simple. So I've taken a whole chunk of networking out, a whole bunch of other stuff. So I've avoided bad purchases so far, but that's been my focus for the last few months.
Corny?
Yeah, one of the best deals I found recently, and I pointed it out here, and several people here on the show took advantage of it. A while back, I ordered some of these batteries, these Sony type NP970 type replacements. Now, these are unique in that they have a built-in meter that shows you the state of your charge and how much they're charging. They have a USB-A 5-volt output, and they have a USB-C 5 and 9-volt input and output. So it's a PD device, so you can use this as a power bank to charge your phone without plugging it into anything. You can plug it into a camera or whatever, light or whatever you're using it on, and also plug in another device into the USB-C or USB-A and power a monitor, whatever. Comes with a charging cable and a plastic case. And it was the deal of the century. I had this. These are the ones I ordered from. They're heavy duty, heavy amperage. They're 8,800 milliamp hours. These were on sale.
I lost your audio,
1990
Courtney.
You did?
There, you're back.
Okay, I'm back. I didn't do anything. Wasn't me. Anyway, these were on sale for $19.99 for 2 of them. So that means $10 a piece. And so I ordered four of them. So they're now added to my collection here, and I'm really happy with them. For $10, there's no beating something like that. My most disappointing acquisition is something I haven't gotten, and it's Behringer, because I ordered when they were first announced in January the Flow 4V, which is a production recorder that does time code, unlike the 8V. And it has 4 inputs and looks very nice, although it doesn't have internal powering. I've been looking at the specs because I ordered it in January from Sweetwater, and now they say, well, we may be able to deliver in August sometime. So they were saying, oh, it'll come in March, but now it's been pushed back with all the supply line problems that they're having from the Far East and everywhere else. It's now pushed back to July, the end of July or early August is now they're saying is the delivery date. So I'm waiting to be seen. Waiting to receive that and review it. But for $300, a 32-bit 4-channel recorder that supports time code and broadcast wave files with time code and metadata, that's almost unheard of. So we'll see how good it is when it comes in. It is Behringer, so hopes aren't too high.
As a Behringer dealer, we've seen a lot of long delivery lead times for a lot of products. I ordered a Behringer wing rack a month ago, and it's not slated to show up in Canada until mid-August sometime. And it's like that for not just their pro audio line, but a lot of their other products, like all their synthesizers and stuff like that. There's just long lead times. It just take months and months and months and months to get here. So I'm not sure what that is, if that's a part shortage or chip shortage or issue with tariffs or a confluence of multiple things like that. Probably all of the above. But yeah, you just have to be patient with stuff, and it's not just any one dealer. I thought it was just something to do with Canada, but apparently Sweetwater's got the same issue with a lot of product delivery in the United States, so it's affecting everyone right now. But it's cool. It's good to see some of those products that you guys showed. I've got for me, one of them is actually not a piece of hardware; it's an app. Now, I've tried so many apps for the iPhone that are designed to help you read the color temperature of a light that you point it to. And, a lot of them, some of the ones that I've tried were okay, but then the developer stops supporting it and it becomes really buggy or unstable on new versions of iOS. And I just got a hold of this new app, and I can't remember who turned me on to this, but the guy that wrote this, and I apologize, I forgot his name. I think he was at NAB this year, and it's called Cinetemp. It's not a cheap app in comparison to, say, the average, 99-cent or $2 app on the App Store. It's $25, I think, $24.99. But it is very, very slick and really cool, and it seems to be very, very stable. And I don't know if my camera is going to be able to focus. It has a hard time with glass. Let's see if we can get it to focus there. It's probably not going to focus. Come on. Let's see. I don't know why this camera has such an issue with reflections. Okay, forget about it. Anyways, you should go check out Cinetemp. It's really cool. I've been using it to read color temperature on lights. It does all sorts of cool things, like it gives you the... you can put in like the ISO, the T-stop, the shutter angle, and everything. It'll also tell you what ND filter you may need to apply to get the exposure correct. So I've just barely scratched the surface of this app. So if you're looking for a new light meter app on your iPhone, I don't know if there's an Android version, but it's called Cinetemp, all one word. And before we go to the next question, just wanted to remind you, if you wanted to ask questions on this show, we've got room for questions. You can post those questions in Makana, our Q&A system, and you can vote on them. That is crucial because that helps drive the run of show. And of course, you can chat with us. There's lots of lively chat happening, so you're missing half the fun if you're not doing that. If you don't know where to go, if this is your first time and you're just tuning in right now, you got to be part of the Office Hours global community. And to do that, open your browser, go to officehours.global. officehours.global/join. That's officehours.global/join. You need to put in your email address, and in the newsletter that we will send you, you're going to see links to Discord. You're going to see links to Makana, so you can be part of the chat during the show when we go live, and of course, other links that are related to things that are going on in the community. Next question.
Next one comes in from Guy Cochran in Seattle, Washington. Should we do a Decimator update lab today in after hours? The new firmware update unlocks a lot of new features.
What do you think, Ronnie?
Yeah, so we did this upgrade on one of our devices the other week, I think, 2 weeks ago. And they surely add a lot of features and functionality that haven't been on the MDHX before. So I think this is a good initiative, and also not just doing the upgrade, but actually using some time to go through the menus and flick through both the menus on the device itself and using the accompanying software to set settings and how to use it. I think there is a lot of people, including me, that are not specialists in using it. I just add it if I have a problem and then start flicking through and see what makes the heart tick again. And just being able to control in an environment and just use it for what it is, namely a really Swiss Army knife in signal flows and even monitoring. I think that's a good idea. As long as you add the original red USB cable to update it, I'm in, all in.
And Courtney?
I mean, if we do a lab, it'll be a very short lab because it's pretty easy. You just have to download the software for your PC, whether it's a Intel Mac, an ARM Mac, or a 64-bit Windows version. Download the USB updates, USB control panel software, which you can use to control your MDHX. And there is a choice from the control software to update the firmware. So that's
I have
how you do it.
I have a proposal to make this an even more exciting thing. How about we get everyone to do that? Everyone does the update at the same time, and then mid-update, I want you to unplug the USB cable and let's see if
And
it'll
see how we
survive
can
the
recover it.
process.
Yeah. No.
Who can recover their Decimator
We'll have a
faster?
brick. We'll have a brick sale. Little orange
Yeah.
bricks for sale later.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, next question.
It comes in from Austin, Texas, Paul Val, who asks Frame.io version 4 versus Iconik versus LucidLink for review and approval on distributed post-I teams. What's winning? And he has a link to Frame.io there.
I've used Frame.io. It's great. I haven't used LucidLink, so I can't comment on that. But I know overwhelmingly, just because it's probably been around for a little bit longer, it seems that more people use Frame.io. LucidLink may be a very, very good product. I saw the demo of it, and it looked very capable. But, you know, when Frame.io is integrated into so many NLEs and has been for a while, and you've already got an established base, it's like, you know, try to get people off Pro Tools when the whole industry is on Pro Tools. That's a tough one. Go ahead, Courtney.
And there's that new one. He didn't mention that Michael Cioni came up with called Strata. Is it Strata?
Strata, yeah. Yeah.
And
it's
it looks
cool.
really good. He is, brilliant. And I think it is really engineered for using on set and transferring files and for approval, even live on set transmission. So take a look at Strata. If it is out, it was just out in beta last time I looked, but that was quite a while ago. So it may be out for sure now. So look for that.
Next question.
Jason Robertshaw in Sarasota, Florida. Zoom calls for a noisy museum atrium. Zoom calls from, a noisy museum atrium with kids, crowds. Best settings for Rodecaster Duo plus Audio-Technica BPHS. Any gear alternatives for noise rejection?
Oof, that's a tough one. I have some things to say about this, but go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, I just wish Rode would add a feature called Remove Kids from Original Sound. Now, from jokes aside, I think this settings is not only about setting Rode. I think you have to discuss with your client, or if you're your own client, discuss with yourself how much money you are going to put into this, and if this is a recording, or is it only going to be this Zoom call where you would be participating from this noisy area. And of course, your headset choice is already fixing some of that. And if you're going to add a lot of other microphones as well, you have to be really thinking of what types of microphones you would be adding to this. As I understand, the Rodecaster does not have specific noise algorithms, but it is a USB kind of mixer, so you could be adding filters, etc., to the recording flow, or the pipeline that is going into your Zoom call. And some of those are Waves plugins. There are other software that can be added to this mix. I will add some links in the chat for things that I have been using. But of course, one of the things that we in office hours are never thinking of is budgets. So you didn't specify a budget limit for this. So there is something called Noise Assist, as I'm showing here now. That's a software plugin that is something you can purchase extra for a hardware device called MixPre. The problem here is that the MixPre is also costing some money, and you need to have at least MixPre 3 or MixPre 6 or even MixPre 10 to add these plugins, and you can have them added as a single channel for around $300, and you can have dual channels that operate. So the way I do it on our MixPre is to have this Noise Assist client or plugin attached to one of the master outputs. So I attach it normally to output left, and then I just mono the left signal coming into my software or computer, and that way have the ability to do recording of every channel isolated and left and right. So I have the noise version of the channel if I need it in the recording, and I just use the left channel as the one that are going into the production or Zoom room or whatever I've been using that signal for. So that is the kind of expensive, not very expensive. There are more expensive hardware versions to this, but MixPre and this Noise Assist plugin is a really good thing to be using for live production, and it has really low latency, and it actually has a really good functionality. So it removes most of the things that you would like to get rid of, and I've seen these numerous places. A lot of news corporations use these out on the road, and it's a really rugged product as well. So, but of course, if you're only going to use this once, I guess renting it would be a better idea.
Courtney?
Yeah, if you don't have the money for a MixPre 3 or 6 2 and the $300 you have to pay for Noise Assist on one of the channels, I've been using since it came out personalized audio from Zoom on my audio. And I find it quite amazing. You do have to sign in. The trick is you do have to sign into an account, because if it doesn't know who you are, you can't personalize your audio, because it'll sample your voice and store it and attach it to your account. So every time you log in with your account, log in with just your email address. You don't have to have a paid account or anything. Then you'll see under your audio settings, personalized audio on, and that does noise reduction. And I've been on the show here, and the phone rings, which is right next to me right here, and it'll be doing that, and you don't hear it. I'll be talking along, and I'll say, I'm sorry about that phone ringing, and everyone goes, what phone ringing? So it does an amazing job when the garbage man comes out. So in a situation in a museum where you have a lot of background chatter and PA announcements and a lot of other stuff that you got to filter out, Noise Assist is really good with regular noises, but I've found that the Zoom built-in personalized audio does a great job of noise reduction, and it's free.
Yeah, I mean, personalized audio works great. Obviously, Courtney, because you use it, and that's a testimony. But he mentioned that he has a Rodecaster Duo, so that's going to be an issue if he's got two mic inputs with two different voices going in. I don't know if that'll work very well doing that. But if it's just one person, then it should work just fine. Go ahead, Chris.
So it depends on what you're trying to accomplish here, right? Like I have probably a dozen of those headsets, and we use them all the time in noisy sports venues. If you're trying to get like pristine audio, like a sit down interview type audio, that's like this is not going to happen, right? If you are just trying to have whoever's talking to be legible and heard, you should have no problem with that headset and that setup, and just make sure that your that your mic is as close as possible to your mouth without actually touching it, and you should be fine. You're going to hear the background, and I think that's kind of part of, like, I don't know what you're trying to do, but what I'm hearing and my experience in sports is like that's part of it, right? Like you are there in the moment. There are things around you. Like people aren't expecting it to be silent because you're in it. You're in the thick of it, right? And so making sure that your headset is real close to your mouth. I see a lot of our first time broadcasters. They put the headset on and the mic's 8 inches from their mouth, and say, no, get it nice and close, and so your signal to noise ratio is appropriate. If that's still not good enough, you could go with the old the Coles lip mic, and you put that right up on there, and they use that right in the middle of noisy soccer venues. So that would be something. But I think what you have is probably good enough for what you're trying to do. It's just making sure that you're getting that mic nice and close to your mouth, as close as possible without actually touching, and I think you'll be fine.
Nigel?
Yeah, I think the constraint, as Chris said, is in the configuration you've sort of said, which is if you want to stick with that Duo and that headset, then you just need to do what Chris said. I mean, I love my Mix Pre 3, but there's no clever way to get your Mix Pre 3, as far as I know, into that Duo. It's an either or thing. And if you really wanted to spend the money and you had two, you can get the Pre with two inputs, a mic on left and right, and put noise reduction on both of those. But now we're into a $1,500 solution. I think you can go many other ways at $1,500. So I think the challenge will be with the configuration you've listed. What Chris has said is probably the best answer.
Yeah, I agree with everything everyone said there. For this, if you don't want to spend more money, I think just using Zoom's basic noise reduction stuff, probably try it on auto. I would probably do a test recording because you're going to want to hear what it sounds like on the other end. You don't want to make any assumptions. So probably test it, do a test recording, and see what that actually sounds on the other end. See if it's actually usable. Go ahead, Chris. You wanted to come back in?
Yeah, and Jason posted a link in the chat of an example, and I mean I think it sounds fine. You can clearly hear what you're saying. You're obviously in the midst of it. Like no one's expecting it to be just like silent, right? I think it sounds great. If you want to just kind of I think your mic's still a little far from your mouth. It's pretty close, but you can probably get it a little bit closer if you can just kind of tighten up that signal to noise ratio. I think it's going to be even better. But I don't have Mickey's ears, but my ears, it sounded great.
Yeah, and Mickey in the chat was saying too that you can just ride the faders too. So try to ride the faders on the Rodecaster when someone's not talking, to push that down. You're gonna have to be quick, but it can be done. Professionals do that. And there's mention too from Mickey about using a better console, but sometimes that isn't always an option. The other thing I will say, and this is just a general comment, not directed at you, Jason, necessarily, but there seems to be an obsession with broadband noise reduction for live events, and I take the opposite stance. I actually find it really jarring and unnatural when I see people scrubbing all the, for example, I'm looking at some footage I've seen from NAB, and when you've used something like Cedar or some other broadband noise reduction, to remove all the ambience of what is there, like all the other people in the background, the conversations. I mean, it's a live event. And to me, it just seems weird looking at two people talking in complete isolation like they're in a studio when there clearly should be noise, and the noise reduction isn't necessarily always perfect. So then you start to hear sometimes artifacts. So I just wish people weren't so heavy-handed with stuff like that, because You know, for years, you know, I used to watch people doing interviews on the NAB floor, and you'd hear the noise, you'd hear all the people, and it never bothered me. I think there's just like, we've gone so far the other way with just aggressively scrubbing all this stuff, and it doesn't sound live anymore. And I'm not a huge fan of that either. Next question.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Next question comes in from you, Alexander Knight in Port Coquitlam, British Columbia. It says, on a Windows platform running Vmix, do the Nvidia GPUs support hardware encoding for H.264 and H.265 codecs? And what about local ISO recording? Are Apple ProRes codecs supported?
Go ahead, Chris.
So yes, yes. The whether or not it supports H.265 actually depends on the Nvidia card, not on Vmix or Windows. It's whether the card has those encoders and decoders, and some of those cards have decoders but not encoders. Some of the older ones, but any of the newer ones are going to have the encoders, and you can select between those when you're recording an MP4. You can also record into AVI, or Vmix has a proprietary AVI solution that does some things a little different. You can record into an MKV, or you can use FFmpeg. And when you use FFmpeg to record, you can select your codec, which includes MPEG-2, some MP4 stuff, ProRes, which you asked about, and VC3. So lots of options, and those are all available both in the program record and in the multi-quarter.
And Courtney?
Yeah, and it depends on what version of Windows you have, but you don't even have to have an NVIDIA GPU. It is better probably if you do have a 30, 40, or 50 series RTX board to use their encoders, which are really quite good. Well, actually, yeah, I think they are. But QuickSync, which is it's on the chip hardware encode and decode of H.264 and 265. In the last 7 or 8 years, 7 or 8 versions of Intel, or 7 or 8 years, like series 12, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. They all have hardware encoding built into them, even with their local GPU. It's a separate area of the chip itself that does that hardware encoding. So it's not part of the GPU, the onboard GPU. So if you have the right codec, if you have the right drivers for that Intel chip, it'll just use those. But if you have the choice, you can choose between the NVIDIA GPUs to do the encoding. ProRes, different story, because Windows does not natively support ProRes, but applications that you download will include ProRes drivers for encode and decode. Specifically, their encoders are not that great because Apple wants to make sure that you have less than, their encoders work a lot better on the Apple hardware because they're tuned specifically for their hardware, and on Windows, it's there are 35 million different combinations of hardware, so that they don't even write. They just write generic codecs that use the CPU to do encoding, and they're very slow. So be careful about doing encoding on like DaVinci Resolve. You'll have some, and there's some from LAV that you can get some generic encoders and decoders for ProRes. Some of the codecs, but not necessarily all of them. And sometimes they're pretty doggy if they use the CPU as an encoder. So stay away from those and find the ones that are tuned for a specific GPU. If you're going to do ProRes, I'd advise against using DaVinci Resolve. I think 19.14 or something or later versions of DaVinci, but the latest versions of DaVinci come with the ProRes codecs, but they're not really great at encoding.
All right, let's go to the next question.
Mr. Ronnie Hofse of Tromsø, Norway says, any cool sites that discuss movies, maybe in depth? I wonder why he asked this question.
Nigel.
Yeah, so if I describe my editing style, it would be fast, furious, and not great. So I've been trying to learn how to be a bit more smart in my editing, and I have found this site is called Inside the Edit, and I think he's really very good at describing how to build different bits of video. There's particularly a good one I really enjoyed somewhere down here about 4 different types of use of a B-roll. And I don't know it's necessarily groundbreaking stuff, but I know at least for me, I've learned a lot and it has improved some of my editing and storytelling.
And Courtney?
Yeah, I spoke about this one on Extra Hours last Monday, and it has now become my favorite go-to site for video snacking. There is a site called Serious Feather. Uh, I'll jump to it here. It's this guy who is not a flasher on the C train. Thankfully, he does not appear in any of these videos, but he has put together this website, a behind the scenes video on almost every famous or cult film that you can think of. There's and he's posting them at a furious rate. This guy is a film historian. He teaches film at the University of Manchester, and just north of London. And he's put together these documentaries by gathering together all the extras and interviews and stuff that are on all the old DVDs and Blu-rays, which are now becoming ghosts. And he's re-edited them all. And because they're re-edited, he gets by the copyright problems. So they have not, YouTube has not pulled them down yet. This one was just posted, yesterday? Um, he'll drop 2 or 3 a week sometimes. And these are all, 28 minutes, 22 minutes, 20 minutes to an hour long documentaries. And there's over 280 of these things behind the scenes. There's no AI in any of it. It's not AI slop at all. He's cut together live on camera interviews of the directors, the actors, the producers, the writers of all these movies. Here's Thunderball, here's Body Heat, here's The Outsiders, Deliverance. That one I saw is really good. That covers, the production. That's the guy who wrote Deliverance. Um, what is that? Heat. Marathon Man. Oh, this is a great one too. Treasure of Sierra Madre. He cuts a story out of all these interviews so that they tell a linear story, and it's all with the actual directors, writers, directors, actors, producers, cinematographers. And the one on The Shining. Oh, it's just great. E.T. If you have a favorite movie, it's probably a behind the scenes documentary. And he intercuts it with clips from the movies, some of the behind the scenes footage from the movies. And if there's not good behind the scenes movies, it has, The Magnificent Seven. That's a great one too. It has clips and stills from the film. So Serious Feather, look for that YouTube channel. And with I think he's up to like close to 300 now. You can just go there and revel in 20 to 30 minutes to sometimes an hour. Ken Burns quality kind of storytelling in a documentary with no AI slop, no fake voiceover, all the original voices of all these actors that have been actors, directors, producers, etc. that have been interviewed. So take a look at that. That is quite a find.
That is fantastic. This is right down my alley, and I did not know about Serious Feather, so I just subscribed. I'm going to start watching this weekend. Thanks for pointing that out. Next question.
From James Fosseline in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Do you use command line FFmpeg for quick tasks? I've now used commands suggested from AI for some tasks.
Chris.
I've used it a couple times, not too much, but I have used it for like bigger projects, and I built a whole tennis live stream infrastructure that takes an SRT feed from a camera, sends it to the cloud, overlays a graphic, and then sends out another SRT feed of that. And at its core, all it is 6 six FFmpeg command lines. It's just it's a fancy interface and it does all this, but at the end of the day, what it produces is six command lines, each an FFmpeg command line for each one of those feeds, and it's just one line, and at its core, that's all it is. And so FFmpeg's really powerful, and with AI, it's become way more approachable to figure out like how to use it and how to get it to do what you want it to do.
Right.
Yeah, just add to that. I tend to use this FFmpeg as programmatical, controllable batch processing thingy. So when I'm using it, I tend to be using it for something very specific, and I need to batch process multiple or hundreds of items at the same time. I'm not using FFmpeg as suggested here just for a small task, but as Chris already said, using AI to construct the command lines is, it's maybe something that we will see more and more, that really, really advanced software like FFmpeg actually is being used with the help of AI. For normal daily use, if I need to do something specific, really just on my heel and have it done, I normally use Handbrake or even Shutter Encoder. Those are licensed software, and maybe Handbrake is free now. I'm not sure. It's been ages since I installed it, but I know Shutter Encoder is at least paid software. And most of these are just front ends for FFmpeg, so it makes it easier to just control everything. But as Chris already said, using AI to control FFmpeg is maybe the way forward, and it's free and it's really powerful. And just start using it. Dive in and have a fun hour with that, and you'll see the power of it. A lot of people doesn't even know what FFmpeg is, and at least they doesn't know that that's actually powering a lot of the vision things that we are using today, and it's just hiding behind the scenes.
Next question.
Next question comes in from Chuck Swan in Bristol, Wisconsin. I'm shopping for smallish flypack cases, single wide on wheels, looking for Pro X. Not sure what Pro X is. What are other good
It's a brand.
options? Low to moderate budget thoughts.
Courtney.
Well, I don't know whether this is rack cases you're looking for or just like Pelican type cases. I always like the Pelican cases if you're not looking for rack cases necessarily, because they're all polyethylene and a lot of them have wheels built in and the handles that slide up and lock so that you can wheel them through airports. They're handy to have, and they make some, the 1570s that fit in the overhead compartments, or maybe not the 15s, but the next size smaller. I use for local transport where you're not throwing them on an airplane and surrendering them to the loaders that load the planes and throw them on Gator. I found these rack cases that are these basically polyethylene. I mean, not polyethylene. These are ABS type molded cases. They're not the roto molded thicker. These are lighter weight so that they don't add a lot of weight. When you're shipping by air, that can be important because, they limit the size of a case that you can ship as luggage to less than 70 pounds and less than 50 pounds if you're just shipping it without a media pass. So take a look at those. They also have some, Gator makes some larger cases that you can have on wheels that are the ATA rated plywood and ABS or fiberglass laminated cases with the aluminum corners on them. And then they make some rotomolded polyurethane cases that are pretty, and polyethylene cases that are pretty good. So that's my suggestion, Pelican or Gators. And be careful of the weight, because some of those rotomolded polyethylene cases, the case alone will weigh, 25 pounds. And so once you load it up with equipment, you can get over that 70 pounds
Right.
pretty quickly.
Yeah, I've had some bad luck with Gator cases. Maybe it was just a bad batch, but we bought a whole bunch of these 6U cases, and the latches just kept breaking on
Yeah,
these
the
things.
latches do break
the
off.
ones I'm talking about, those twist,
the
twist to
twist
lock.
keys. Yeah, the
I
metal
twist
twist
it and it
locks.
snaps right off, like, and you
That's
can't
why I
fix
say
it.
it's good for local
Yeah.
use, but I wouldn't throw them on whenever I ship them on an airplane, I use gaffer tape and tape down. I close the latches,
Yep.
flip the key down, and put a piece of tape over it so that they don't get
Yep.
knocked open or knocked off.
Yeah, I've had to do that too. Ronnie?
Yeah, if you're going to fly a lot and be on the road for months and months and using it every day and flying, I would not recommend Gator. Gator is a low budget alternative for light to kind of in from the car and out to the venue, etc. They have some cool fabric-based cases. So have a look at those as well if you're not going to check this in. If you're going to have it overhead or between your legs. They are kind of cool. The zippers are a little bit flimsy maybe, but Gator have a few of those. So take a look at that. And I have to agree with Courtney. Pelican is the way to go if you're going to use this on a regular basis. And we also here in Scandinavia, we have a producer of really, really rugged aluminum cases that are coming to the States in a few months, I think. If the rumors are good, I'll leave a link in the chat for those ones. And they fit inside custom molded 1537s from Pelican, and they have wheels and they are really rugged, and we check them in all the time with the flights we are going on. So I would just take a look at that and do not fall for don't fall for the trick that you can buy something that is really cheap and also have it really rugged. That is not the case.
And Chris?
So I'm not entirely sure what you're actually looking for. When I hear flypack, I'm thinking, small Pelican cases, 1510, that type of stuff, like the rack cases that can have a handle and whatnot. But when you say single wide on wheels, I'm thinking the big wooden cases that you roll into a back of a truck, and I don't think those really roll into the back of an airplane unless you're spending lots of money on an airplane, right? If you're looking for something like the actual, what I would consider a fly pack, SKB makes a case where the rack actually slides in and out, and those things are awesome. Where it's super mobile, and then you can just pull it out, and then your rack's there, and everything is kind of set up, and you don't have to worry about the bulkiness of the case when you're actually in production. So lots of options.
If you'd like to support this show, remember this show is entirely driven by a community of fantastic volunteers. So we need your support to keep this thing going, keep the lights on. And you can do that a few different ways. If you actually want to be part of the show, you can be a panelist on the show. You can be part of the crew. If you're interested in that, go to officehours.global/volunteer. That's officehours.global/volunteer. And of course, you can also donate some money by going to officehours.global/donate. Next question.
Question comes from you once again, Alexander Knight in Port Coquitlam. You are tasked with implementing a rock-solid video recording system for a multicam shoot where failure is not tolerated because of a high-caliber guest. What do you choose and how do you implement it?
Ronnie.
Yeah, we use these Blackmagic recorders that are put in a rack and just connected to the switcher, hardware switcher, SDI based thing. And of course, if you're really going to be sure that everything works, we tend to record in camera. So we have SD cards or recording capabilities in cameras using hard drives, SSDs or SD cards or similar. Then we have this ATEM Mini Extreme setup with up to 8 feeds just to have kind of a backup of the backup. Those are not really high quality, so we tend to just synchronize that with the in-camera recordings. And then we have these studio recorders that are put in a rack and routed through the switcher or the hub. and make a recording of that as well. And of course, you can use NDI feeds coming from those cameras, depending on the cameras you have, and do the recording of each individual ISO feed coming from the NDI feeds, or even if you have PD sets using SRT or whatever. So it depending on the camera you have and what capabilities those cameras have. But of course, having multiple routes going from, this is also, what do you say? It's camera shoot. You doesn't say if it's in a studio or if it's on the road. Can you specify?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So if this is in a studio or if it's mobile, of course, there are different things to think about. If it's in a studio, you can, of course, cable everything and have everything tested and checked out all the time.
Sorry, I should have said studio. I just realized
Yeah,
you were asking me a question. Yeah, studio.
Yeah, so if it's in the studio, just make sure that you test everything and make sure that you have multiple sources or destinations that you record to, and make sure you check that you have available drive space for all these devices. There's nothing as abrupt to a happy recording session and to find out that the recording was stopped halfway because it was filling up the drives too fast, and also make sure that you have tested it for long running times. If you're using SSDs for recording destinations, make sure you have the SSDs tested for a long time, because SSD are getting heated up, and as they are getting hotter and hotter, they have a tendency to reduce the throughput, and at some time they throttle down and stop recording at the speed you would like them to have, and also use multiple drives as a backup. So it's just kind of my 2, 3, 4 cents in this. It's so many things that can go wrong, so make sure you have a lot of different backups.
Yeah, that's all great advice. I'm actually probably going to bring this up as a conversation topic tomorrow when we have more time, because that's one of the challenges too, is dealing with a client who, who asks you about this stuff, but it's like, okay, well, you got to pay for it. And so, when they ask you this kind of question, like we had a very high profile guest that he paid money to fly this person from Vegas all the way to Vancouver. And he asked me, he goes, is anything going to go wrong? And it's like, what's your answer supposed to be? It's like, yeah, well, ideally everything goes perfect, but it doesn't always. So anyways, I'll talk about this more tomorrow on Sunday's show. Let's go to the next question.
Next one comes in from Rajan Chandil in Los Angeles, California. Any way to power an iPhone, use a wireless DJI Rode USB mic and a USB-C hard drive while recording using a DJI Ronin gimbal. This setup was used for verticals that I filmed, and he has a link there to his Instagram.
I haven't had a chance to look at this, Rajan, the video that you posted, but I will after the show. I'm not aware to do that of any way to do this. I know that the Dante AV-IO adapters, because of power over Ethernet, the moment you plug that into your phone, it will power and charge the phone. However, that doesn't help you with a mobile rig. The way I would do it is I would build a proper rig with the cage, because you can get external battery packs. The Blue Condor brand, or Condor Blue, whatever that company is, they make a great portable little USB-C dock that has multiple ports, that has 1/4-20 mounting threads, so you can add external power banks to that setup to power it. Courtney, what do you think Rajan should do here?
I don't know for sure because I don't have any iPhones, but most phones that have a USB-C connector on them will allow you to charge the phone over the USB, or they'll allow you to hook up a external video over the USB or an external mic over the USB, but sometimes not all three. Pick one. So a lot of times they won't allow you to record and also use it as an input and an output at the same time. So check into that. I'm not sure whether the iPhone can do that. And the problem with a gimbal is if you got the phone mounted at a gimbal, the gimbal has to be free without being encumbered by a stiff wire. So you got to be careful and have a really light wire if you got to have it plugged into the phone, because it's going to mess up the gimbal's ability to automatic level and automatically follow things. And take out the shake in the phone. If it's got a stiff wire coming out of one side of it, it's going to mess up the balance of the gimbal. So, and Ronnie, I think he has, don't you have a gimbal that's a DJI gimbal for your phone? And how does that work? You know?
Yeah, it's working really, really good. And I also have the new one, the new Pocket 4, but I think time is there and we should be going to end credits.
Yeah, speaking of that, that is all the time we got for the Saturday show. Thanks to all the panelists for waking up this morning and answering all these technical questions. Appreciate your vast array of experience and your contributions to this show. And of course, to you, the producers, for showing up today, because we wouldn't have a show without you, really. It's about you showing up, putting in these questions, and you never let us down. So we really do appreciate it. And of course, the back end crew that wakes up to do this show. It's an incredible amount of talent that really runs this show. So thank you. And just a reminder too, after this show, we are going to have a couple of different meetings at 8:30 a.m. Pacific. We're going to have our new panelist meeting. That's for people that are interested in being on the panel. And of course, right after that at 9 a.m. Pacific, they have the panelist meeting. That's for existing panelists. If we were to travel around the world to answer all these questions virtually, of course, according to the Telok Traversal, that would have been 19,000 miles or 31,000 kilometers and 153 million bananas for scale. Yes, exactly that banana for scale that Ronnie is holding up and having a phone call conversation with. And this was episode 2244. We'll see you in after hours. Bye.
That is a Bureau of Standards banana, I think. It's registered as a standard banana. Yeah.
Is it a BSI banana or an ISO banana?
Well, it's got to be an ISO banana because we need standards.
These are the originals from Las Vegas when we were joining up there.
Where'd you get that?
That was given us on the after party on the Las Vegas NAB thing 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Right. Now,
NAB
who's manufacturing
swag.
plastic bananas? I want to know.
I think they just came
the
from
plastic
Amazon.
banana producer.
Acquiring minds.
Were they made overseas? Were they they must have been tariffed heavily to get it. I mean, how much does a tariffed banana, plastic banana cost?
Yeah.
I think those came over before the tariffs hit.
They come with little plastic fruit flies too.
Why can't we
Pre-tariff.